Is it possible to paint a water-based color at home? Let's find out. This is my wife's Honda CB from year 2002. On a road trip through Lithuania, the front wheel slipped while braking and the bike took some damage to the fuel tank and the side fairing. The fuel tank had some existing dents and faded paint on the other side, so it was good time to fix them all. The job started by stripping all the removable parts and old stickers. The paint removal was done using a standard electric sander and 120 grit. After pushing out some of the worst dents, it was time to apply the filler. I used some glass fiber reinforced stuff for the heaviest fills. Before applying the primer, I sanded everything with 400s. In hindsight, I should have probably applied the filler over all the old paint edges. A leftover half can of primer from a previous project was luckily still good. In this application, it should provide enough rust protection. I didn't set up a painting tent for spraying the filler, as next step will involve sanding dust anyway. The primer was sanded manually to 400 grit. I made a plastic paint booth a couple of years ago and it was possible to reuse it for this project. After anti-grease and dust removal wipe, the parts were ready for paint. The original CB Red comes as a 2-layer waterborne paint. The first layer is pretty light in color but brings the metallic effect. Finally, it was time to mask up and cross the fingers. The main trouble with water-based paint is that you basically can't fix it if it starts dripping. Even if some particles fall in your paint, you shouldn't try to fix them in this phase. After this second water-based red coat had dried up, I applied a good layer of solvent-based clear. Genuine decals were luckily still available, and even more luckily they came with an alignment guide. As the decals are partly see-through, I think it's important to apply them on the clear coat before sanding. After doing some spot dust removal, I sanded the whole fuel tank with 1500 grit. I mixed 80 ml of clear coat, which was barely enough. Based on a tip I read from some forum, I applied a really thin coat first to avoid any boiling of the stickers. I don't know if it was necessary, but at least I didn't have any problems. After a short dry time, I applied a full wet layer. I think I got pretty good gloss and the edges of the stickers blended in nicely. It was my first time clear coating over decals anyway. Some dust particle removal was done for both parts. I used a tape mask and wet sanded them down using 2000 grit paper before polishing them out with the Autoglume paint renovator. The lid of the fuel tank was refurbished with silver rattle can, and then it was time to reassemble everything. It was pretty challenging to find a small enough tank protector sticker, but eventually I discovered a suitable item from a brand called One Design. And finally, it's time to have a look on the end result. Let me know what you think. This was my second time using water-based paint, so I think it's nothing to be afraid of.